Joining us today for the second episode of the podcast series, we have Venkatesh Kodukula, who identifies themselves as a non binary individual and their preferred pronouns are they, them. So, without any further ado, let's welcome Venkatesh, an HR professional passionate about social development, having over a decade of experience in empowering underrepresented communities, especially gender and sexual minorities. Yep. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So, hi Venkatesh, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
Yep, I am also doing good. Thank you so much for joining us for the podcast today. And right off the bat, I'd like to ask you something about your personal life. Could you share a bit more about your personal journey and what exactly led you to become an LGBTQ activist?
Yeah, certainly. So I'm 31 now, going to be 32 in a couple of days. So I think my journey started around, I think 16, 17 years ago, when I was in my adolescence, the period where during my school, like around eighth, ninth grade, when I started feeling that I'm attracted to same-sex individuals. But back then, almost 15 years ago, there was no such platforms and there were no such discussions happening. So there was a lot of confusions, inhibitions, and what is right, what is wrong, or if this is right, if this is wrong. But yeah, over the time, it took me almost a couple of years to understand and uh, come across people who of the same mindset, who are the same feelings. So I think by the time I was 18 or 19, it took almost 4 years since I was exploring and I was trying to understand what it was going through. Yeah, but when I was 19, I was very sure that I'm a biologically born male and I'm attracted towards same-sex individuals, that is male, and I identify myself as a gay man. So yeah, that's how when I realized my sexuality, and over the period of time, I think in a couple of months after I realized I was very sure about my sexuality, I came out to my mother as I considered that to be my safe space. Because I felt that talking to her about my sexuality, being that I would not be judged. So I came out to her, and then I think the support which I got through her over the time span of time, that made me more, I think, gave me more strength, where I felt that I should be vocal and working for the community, because not many people are blessed and privileged to have such a supportive family, and I think having a supportive family is a backbone. So yeah, that's how I sort of started working for the community, and that's how my uh, activism journey began. I think when I was around 20, say 11 years before. Yeah.
Yep, that's right. So, talking about you coming out of the closet, I wanted to ask if you faced any sort of discrimination from the society, or maybe just some sort of harsh behavior, maybe at work, at school, because right now I'm working with so many trans individuals, and their life is hard because their parents have for most of them, their parents have kicked them out, and the society doesn't accept them. Even if they do want to do their own businesses, this the people, they just don't give them enough. They just don't give them a platform to to do their business. So yep, that's what I wanted to ask. Did you yourself face any prejudice or something like that?
Yeah, I think when I talk about a decade before, a journey before a decade or 15 years, of course, it has not been easy. So there has been prejudices, there has been discrimination. I think it's still date which is happening, but yeah, something less or more on the floor. But yeah, over the time, there has been issues where I've faced through from my extended families, from my friends, and a lot of people across, where I was judged on the because of my uh, sexuality, or on the basis of how I expressed myself or what I used to wear. I think there was always a judgment which has flown across, but I think I was very confident and sure that that wouldn't affect me. I was very always very confident as a person, And I think that confidence comes when you have a support from the family also. So I think that somewhere lies where I had the support from the family, and where I knew that there's nothing going to which hamper my life, or there's something which is going to affect me. Uh, so yeah, I think that was one of the major reasons. But yes, over the time, I think luckily I was into freelancing, I was into activism for years, and I think in my last couple of organizations where I have worked with, or with my present organization as well today. So I think I was blessed in that way, where these folks have been inclusive and had a diverse representation, or accepting about me. So I think there have been periods, instances, but where in my workplaces at least I was not judged of who I am. And over the time, I identified as a gay man, but I think last 5 years almost now, I identify myself as a non-binary individual, and I go with the pronouns they and them. So again, non-binary is a spectrum of trans uh, as well, where I don't feel confided to tag along with any of the binary gender binaries. And so I think I am always comfortable if I'm being addressed just by my name, and not just on the basis of he or she, just on the basis of what I'm wearing, or I'm comfortable wearing a sari, I'm comfortable wearing a skirt, I'm comfortable wearing a shirt and a pant. But yeah, I think just how I express myself or what I choose to wear shouldn't be on the basis of that I should be addressed. That's what something I feel, and so I am very okay with being gender neutral, having gender neutral pronouns, they and them, having being addressed by my name, just not being addressed by say sir, madam. I think that's what I prefer. So again, I understand that change takes time. So yes, I think in terms of that, discrimination at today's day, you still face discrimination in a lot of places in terms of your when you travel, when you wear certain sort of, like for example, if I'm wearing a earrings, there are people who would have prejudices and might look upon me and things. But I think it's just that being confident and how as a person I am, I think that never affected me, or I really not took it by heart if it was not something which is really causing an effect on my health, mental health.
Yep, very well said. You just can't make everyone happy.
Correct.
You put yourself first. And I was just thinking the other day that a very big reason behind why people look down upon at the entire LGBTQ community is because they believe that it has its roots that are based in the United States, and it's a culture over there, and that is just transformed here into India. And a very funny incident. We at Soul Spectrum, we had posted this one post that was about gender dysphoria, and there was this one person commenting on it. He was saying this is just a mental illness that's based in the United States. There are only two genders, and we did reply to them. It's like saying that there are only two flavors to an ice cream, chocolate and vanilla. There's more to it, right? And but he just didn't listen to us. He was saying this is a mental illness of the states. This is not the Indian culture. So what do you want to say to such people who think like this? Because I've met a lot of them.
So I think, see, I just give, I think this, let me start with again. See, one thing to understand, and this westernized people saying that it's a very westernized way of culture, or westernized things being, which is being, people have been adapting. I think that's a very wrong notion. Yes, in terms of LGBTQ activism, the vocal first country to be vocal was the United States of America, and where the actually the LGBT rights, I think the journey of movement started was from the historic Stonewall riots, which happened in back in 1960s. So I think from there, that Stonewall riots, the LGBTQ activism started in US, and then it started having gaining more voice across the other different nations and across the globe. So yes, that is one aspect of in terms of activism starting, or the LGBTQ rights struggle battle started. But over the time of span of time, if we see, it's not something very westernized. In today's date, if you go to Ajanta Ellora caves or the Konark temple, there are same-sex cultures across, and these are not something which has been built 50 years or 60 years before. These have been going on from hundreds and hundreds, some centuries, which has been there. So I think somewhere down the line in our ancient Indian history also, it was always there. Just that people have not spoken about it, or people think it's a westernized culture or something. But I think that's completely a wrong notion, and I think. Um, And what I think, I certainly agree with you. It's not just two flavors like chocolate and vanilla, or to the binaries of male and female. There can be more, much more, and that's absolutely okay. Just that we need to accept it. So I think it's people who are, I think, connecting the dots, saying that it's a US culture, it's a westernized culture. I think that's just, I think, a lack of awareness, or lack of, just by they, well, they don't want to accept it. I think that's something, a phobia which against they have against the community.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one very general question that I'd like to ask is that, before I jumped into the field of Soul Spectrum, actually helping a lot of transgender individuals, interacting with the entire LGBTQ community. Before that, I didn't know much about it. So if we could just maybe talk about what exactly is the LGBTQ community, what all it encompasses, because even right now I have a lot of my friends coming up to me and asking, see, I know what a lesbian means, I know what a gay means, but what are the rest of the letters in the LGBTQ community? What does intersex mean? What is a transgender? What's a non-binary? So if you could explain.
Certainly. So I think, see, initially the acronyms were restricted to LGBT. I think lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans. But then it started LGBTQ, lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer. Then it came to LGBTQIA, intersex, asexual. I think, and we say plus. The reason of saying plus is because it's a varied spectrum of more and more, more. I think I personally, being an activist, I might not be aware of all the so many gender identities or binaries which have been there, or which I'm not aware of. So I think the plus is acceptance of all the people apart from the binaries. Also, they come to this plus. And when I talk about trans community, we need to understand trans is a, like, lesbian, gay, bisexual. These are all sexuality. Some certain sexuality of a person. A person can be a cis. A person can be a uh, cisgender male or female, but then sexuality, their inclination, their feelings, romantic or physical feeling is towards the same sex, or it can be towards both the genders, the same sex and the opposite gender. So that's how we say about lesbian, gay, bisexual, the sexuality. But when it comes to trans, so trans is again an umbrella term. It's a very vast umbrella term where you find trans, where you find a hijras, where you find intersex, where you find non-binary, kotis. A lot of spectrum comes under trans, I think. And it's, I think people need to understand the basic differences, or basic understand have a basic understanding of what is sex, what is gender and sexuality. So in terms of sex, we always come across that how is the gender assigned? It's on the basis of the sexual reproductive organ you are born with, right? So if in terms of that, apart from the male reproductive organ or the female reproductive organ, that is the penis or the vagina, there are during at the time of birth, there are babies who are born with underdeveloped of either of the uh, one of the sexual reproductive organs, or a mix of both. So those children are termed as intersex. So on the basis of the organ, sexual, on the basis of the sex you're born with, your gender is assigned. So we don't say that, oh, I am by the time I'm born, I am a boy or I'm a girl. It's just the society tells on the basis of the sex, on the organ of which you're born with, the gender is assigned. So apart from male, female, there are intersex babies as well. So it's by birth. So, and that is also comes under the trans spectrum. And when you talk about male to female, so there can be today, for example, I am a biologically born male, and after 10 years or 15 years, after 40 years, whatever the time might be, I feel that I might not confide to my gender which I'm assigned at birth. I don't feel comfortable with it. So I feel that I'm a woman. So I get transition. I want to go through the transition, or I might not go through the transition, but I feel. So I think I identify myself as a trans woman. I think in India, it's very important that if I identify as a trans woman, I think that's important. It's not that the surgery or the process is important of your sex reassignment surgery. But in many other countries, it's compulsory that you have to go through sex reassignment surgery to identify as one. But your, at least your self-identification in India is always um, accepted. So that's, I think, comes from the trans woman. And it's again quote, and again, if I talk about trans men, a biologically born female transitioning to a male are called trans men. Non-binary like me today, who doesn't feel confined with both the identities. So I think I identify non-binary, and there are a lot of identities, quotes, and it is a vast spectrum. So I think hijra, I think hijra community, we often say people, oh, dekho hijra. So you have to understand what Hijra is a community, and Hijra is a community and sort of a profession where people choose to be a part. Not that every trans woman, and it's a woman dominance profession. And again, it's a very wrong notion that Hijra profession is just dominated by the trans woman. Even if a biologically born female who identifies as a female, cisgender female also can take up and join the be a part of this community, Hijra community, if they choose want to. So I think so. All this, I think, just to cut short because of time constraints. But yeah, cutting it short, I think all the spectrum. There are vast spectrums which comes under the trans umbrella. So I think it's just that not only non-binary trans men, trans women, intersex. There are lot more which comes under the spectrum. I think it's just that there's a lack of conversation happening, or there's a lack of discussion, or still in today's date, standing in 2024, we have platforms where we are having such discussion. Like today, I think if SoulSpectrum is having a discussion about I think we didn't get that space personally 10 years before. I think at least discussions are taking place. I'm sure there has been platforms, there has been spaces where people get to know. And I think big screens are playing a major role also. Even you see different types of ads, the media, I think the print media, the digital media, having a lot of sensitization in terms of their ads, or in terms of a lot of movies coming across with same-sex couples or trans. So I think still changes are taking place. So I think it's just that more of, I think it's a long process to go, but it's happening slowly, step by step.
Yep, that's absolutely right. They are, especially in the digital way. Earlier Bollywood movies around the 90s or 80s, you know, a lot of gay individuals, especially, they were showcased as very funny characters. But now we have movies coming out that are addressing the issue. So I
True.
think that's great. Apart from these developments, what do you think about the other policy developments that have taken place in India?
See, coming to policies, I think I personally feel there's a long way to go. Changes might happen and are taking place, but now I'll just quickly highlight one of the important. I think recently it was April 15th, a couple of days ago, and it was the 10th year since the Nalsa judgment. The Nalsa verdict was passed by the Honorable Supreme Court, where the verdict says that transgenders have been given recognition of third gender. So again, I think I personally I feel I have an issue with this third gender. If third gender is trans, then who is the first gender and who is the second gender? Then I personally feel again it's a matter of debate. But taking that separate, also I think at least a recognition has been given. Trans people has been given recognition. But if you see, if the judgment was passed on April 15, 2014, 10 years down the line, today is April. I think today is April 20th or 21st. It's 10 years or 11 days. But if you see many platforms till date, you don't get option of selecting your gender identity. And we have seen a lot of places where you come across like selecting from the options male, female, or trans, or male, female, and others. Because others, I think, is a much more inclusive, because anyone who doesn't confide with the binaries of male and female can go with others. And because again, I said so many identities, you can't put across, for example, 50 or 40 identities. So it's that others comes across, but still that others option has not been incorporated in many places. So recently, I went to this one of the a very famous, I think, pilgrimage. It's in Tirupati, Andhra Pradesh, and that's been one of the richest temple in the world. I think I've been there just like a week ago, and I think in today's date also in Tirupati, when you go for darshan, you are allowed to book darshan tickets only with the gender binaries of male and female. So there is no option of others. And I have written a mail previously last year. I wrote a mail 2 days back also again, saying that it is again not only being inclusive, again it's being not adhering to the Supreme Court and also judgment as well, the verdict. So that's one of the instances. I mean, there are so many. You will find a lot of I think recently I've been going through, if you go through my LinkedIn also, I've been posting with one of the leading private airlines of India, where in Indigo, I think I just named that also because they have been showcasing a lot of pride related information of pride, diversities they have been showcasing. But till date, you don't have a, while booking, I am always bound to buy a ticket with the by identity of Mr. Or someone has to buy with Mr., Mrs., and Doctor. Why there is no MX salutation? MX is gender neutral salutation. if some organization is being trying to be very diverse and inclusive, why the salutations are not being added, why there is no gender neutral announcement. So I think in terms of these, I think processes takes time. So I think people from Indigo reached out to me, they assure that it's on time, but when you are having such diversity initiatives for years now, why it is lacking behind? So I think it's just because you're not adhering to the policies, or just showcasing. I think in terms of pink washing, I feel that's another major thing which has been going through pink washing. But yeah, a lot of other policies, many places, the rights, the healthcare. Basic, if we talk about healthcare, um, in the government hospitals today, I might be privileged. I'm a HR professional. I'm by the grace of God, I am a well-established professional where I'm earning, where I can afford a private hospital, possibly. But now that everyone from the community, and if you have interacted with other communities deprived of many basic rights. So when I talk about healthcare, not a government hospital, and it is till there the discrimination happens that which ward they should be admitted, male ward, female ward, because might be the gender assigned at birth and gender what they identify now is not matching, and they may not have. For example, I'll just give a quick example that someone who is a biologically born male and now identifies as a trans woman might not be comfortable getting admitted in a male ward, and at the same time, the healthcare facilities, the healthcare professionals will tell that just because your uh, your biological organ is that of a male and you identify as a trans woman, but still you have to get admitted in a male ward. So I think this amount of discrimination and the harassment which one has to face through in the healthcare system, and the time I have seen a lot of my very close people who has lost their lives just because in this time of कि किस वार्ड में हम भर्ती करें, उस it took hours to decide, and I think that's what I say, that the having a ward separate for trans people is something always, when, because if it's a gender identity, and if it's absolutely okay, there might be people who might be not comfortable in the male ward, or other patients may not be comfortable in a female ward, but why don't you have a separate ward for them? And that's a basic thing. So in terms of all these policies reforms, it's a long way to go, and I think during COVID I did active research in the state of West Bengal in the government hospitals, where the I think we all, I think as a generation, we have seen a one of a major pandemic in our lives, and we will remember that, and we hope that never comes back again. So during that point of time, I was actively working in the state of West Bengal with the government hospitals, where I've seen that there was no beds allotted for trans individuals. There was no isolation centers. I think that's across India. Isolation centers were just restricted to male and female. So where do a person who identifies apart from the binaries get? Are they getting admission, or are they being denied? So basic, I think, access to healthcare, education, right to food, right to housing. These are basic access one should get. One should has the privilege. And I think living in a democratic country like India, when you tell that if in a democratic country our vote matters, our rights matters, then I think it's just not our vote if we have matters. It's about every basic thing which a government should take care of. And I think there has been, and then there have been in the recent times we have seen the manifestos of different political parties. Couple of them telling openly that we would be uplifting the community, but there are a couple of parties which has not spoken about it actively at all. So I think in these places, so there's a lot more to go in terms of policies and reformations. I think a lot more to be incorporated, a lot more to be changed, and things have to take place, and it's a long process. I think, and it will take. I think, but still, it's happening. But I think it's very little. I think minute things, changes are happening at the moment.
Yup, even I believe. I really agree with the part where you said, there's a lot of pink washing that's going on. A lot of these NGOs, to be precise, for them, Pride Month is only what, a June thing. They're posting a lot about, gender rights and all of them. And as soon as June ends, gone by, right?
Correct. I mean, yeah, in terms of that's the reason I think I personally have refrained from being a part of any workshops or any events during the month of Pride until and unless you pay me. And I'm very honest about it, and I'm very upfront that if uh, if you bring some outside speaker from outside someone, you of course pay them. So why during the Pride month you don't? And it's not about payment. I'm not asking that you give me some thousands of money. It's just that basic. I think. I think a honorarium which they can provide to the community members if you really want them to come and invite. And that's absolutely okay. You can do that, but you just want them things to take place for free, and you want it. And in the terms of the community, you are getting money from diverse initiatives and might be think pink washing, and this pink washing has been actively. So I think I have personally refrained from being a part of any events during Pride Month, until unless it's taken care of, the honorarium is taken care of. I think it's just that where I feel the community people should be encouraged and empowered in the best of the ways. And you don't see them people reaching out during the month of May or December or November. It's only the Pride month, June. People will be reaching back and forth, mailing, "Oh, we want this, we want that." But if you really want it, then you also have to incorporate it. You have to respect them in terms of their time. If someone is coming, they're taking their precious time and giving it also. You need to acknowledge and have a certain set of benefits which they should also feel that okay, then I'm happy to do it. So I think these things, I think it's been taken vastly, not only in non-profit sector, but again, it's in the corporates where people are just using the community just for their organizational benefits and all.
Yep, yep. Very well said. It was a really a pleasure having you here. One last question that I have is that what would you like our listeners to take away from this conversation that we're having? And if there is someone who genuinely wants to help the LGBTQ community, but they don't know where to start from or what they can do at the very grassroots level. So, yep, what would you say to
Hmm.
a person like that?
See, and the only thing which I always tell folks, anyone, I think it's respective of any gender, any sexuality. I think as an individual, we all can be kind and empathetic. I think, and creating safe spaces for all our fellow folks who are around us. And I think it's just, I will not restrict only through the LGBTQ. I always say it can be people from any diverse communities, from any socioeconomic background, from any religion, any caste, any creed, sexuality, gender, anyone. I think just being kind and empathetic is one of the most important thing we all as a um, human can do. I think it's just not because of on the basis of what gender or what you're male or female or trans. I think irrespective to my community and to all the allies, I always tell be kind and empathetic, create safe spaces so that today, if anyone wants to come and talk and reach out to you, that they should not feel that they are being judged upon. That's something a very I have always believed personally, and I always share this positive message. And in terms of starting work for the community, I think it's not working just means uh, you have to financially help them. I think it's just by standing by them in terms when they are facing issues. And if you really want to help them, when we talk about saying that oh, trans people are begging in the signals, yes, they are begging the signals because we don't give them platforms where there is not space. They come into the mainstream. And today, recently, I think the Pune, Maharashtra, where trans people have been denied, have been the commissioner said that the trans people can't beg in the singles or they will be arrested. So where do these people go? It's very, I think it's being very rude to them or it's being very harsh to them. Where we don't want to give them empowerment at the same time we don't want to beg them in the signals. I think all what we do is just for basic thing. I think we all earn. I think we all work where we want to have a basic certain lifestyle or just for our living खाने के लिए I think these all things खाने के लिए रहने के लिए जगह चाहिए था you need पैसा for that and if you need money you have to do anything. Some people I think if they're begging because mainstream people if you want for example if you want a house help why don't you have a trans people who is working. There might be 10 people who are not ready to help but there might be two people who are ready to help you or ready to work at your place. So I think empowering them where you feel and that's absolutely okay. There might be organizations where you might feel that okay you need a certain basic qualification. But today's date, I can vouch that there are hundreds of people who are thousands of people who are educated from the trans community as well. So why don't you have them on board? It's just that on the basis of the judgment of what would be passed, if you're not hiring them and if you don't want them also. So I think you can empower them in the best of your own ways. I think there are a lot of ways. I think and if you would like to look away, it's just that you need to open your mind and broaden your perspectives. I think that's not me or you who can come and tell it. If you really want, I think it's what something. If I want, I will find thousands of ways to help someone. And if I don't want, I will have thousands of reasons of not to help someone. I think that's what. And I think be just kind, empathetic, spread positivity across, and I think create a safe space. And that's all. I think the least we all can do as a human mankind. I think I always feel.
Yep, right. I agree with like every single word you said. And that brings us to an end of this podcast. We're very thankful for having you here. Um,
Thank you so much. It was lovely being here.
yep. All right. Bye.
Bye.